What's good with you, YouTube? You guys are now watching The Cali Effect, and today for build breakdown, we are going to be going over the Infernoid deck. Now, a lot of people have been saying that Infernoids have been dead. Seeing that grass is greener went to 1. Now, I am saying this while I'm eating a delicious bowl of Cocoa Puffs. Dang dead, bro. That is correct. The Infernoid deck is far from dead. This deck still has quite a few brilliant tricks up its sleeve, but in this game, I'm going to be showing you when I draw none of those resources, and you gotta kind of fend with yourself with this deck sometimes. I am not saying that it is always possible. You will have X card to perform X interaction. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! It never happens that way in itself, but this time around, as you guys can see, I have 7 cards in the graveyard from my 60 card deck, and that's pretty rough when you don't draw cards like the grass is greener or your Zodiac combo or anything in between. But as you guys can see, it is very manageable. As long as Fairy Tale Snow is a card for the graveyard, then the deck will probably thrive. Now, this is an earlier build that abused the Lightsworn concept inside of the deck, as well as other concepts that I don't necessarily use anymore, but it is still an Infernoid build. Like, for example, I don't even play Cypher Lord Omega, and reasoning behind it is just extra deck room. The extra deck is extremely tight when running the Zodiac engine, but it does have a pretty good return because it allows you to be able to special summon cards like Zodiac Trident, Broad Bull, Bushintai Katazushi, and a host of other cards that can manipulate the board to your advantage. As you guys can see, even though he did knock me down to 1,000 life points out of my own stupidity, I was able to come back because the deck is good enough to have a type of end game. This time around, you guys are going to see another different variant where I was trying to get Bushintai Katazushi off, and it didn't necessarily work the way that it did. And I'm going to get Kaiju'd. Now, a big problem with the Zodiac or Infernoid deck is losing to board wipes, and that's something that this deck does not seem to struggle with as bad as its predecessor, because you have so many Infernoid monsters, or when you do load your graveyard with Infernoid monsters, you are allotted the opportunity to mill cards like Fairy Tale Snow to help manipulate your opponent's board. Now, do not look at what's about to happen within the upcoming plays. Look at my sexy face, because that is the only thing that matters right now. I mean, in my defense, who the fuck plays Honest? Like, nobody sees Honest coming, or I don't care what deck you're playing, whether it be Cyber Dragon, Lightsworn, you just don't see Honest coming. So you really can't blame me for getting Honest if, you know, you don't prepare for cards like that. But more importantly, he did play admirably. I do like the concept that he had going with Cyber Dragons. It's just when it comes down to it, anytime you get to activate that copy of That Grass is Greener, you put your opponent in a pretty bad predicament, and you put yourself in an amazing predicament. It's a reason why That Grass was Greener was limited to 1 in the first place. It is just it is a monster of a card. Now, on to the next game. You guys are going to see the actual first variant of the Zodiac combo being played inside of this deck. As you guys can see, you're seeing somewhat as we like to call the evolution of the thought process of the Infernoid build. This time around, we're going to be playing the True Zoo combo, and I also drew grass, so it also helps to send multiple cards from my deck to my graveyard. Now, as you guys can see, there was like a diagram and such. I was playing the True King, and at a point in time, I was playing a True Draco engine as well. So I was really trying out a lot of things inside of this deck. It actually took me, I want to say, 14 hours to come up with the build that I do have now. And as much as I would like to say it's a finished product, I really don't believe in such things as finished product unless you have extensive competitive tournament play for a tournament-ready deck. But as far as a local level event, this deck is perfectly fine. I think it can definitely top and win locals once the new format starts rolling around. And the new format is practically going to be predicated around Zodiac and True Draco still, as well as the Pendulum Magicians that's coming out. And this deck has an awesome matchup against Pendulums, being able to destroy spells and trap cards at whim, negate and banish spell cards and trap cards at whim. So you pretty much have a significant advantage over Pendulum decks just for playing Infernos, which might be the reason why the card was grass was greener was limited to 1. Not that it really matters. Now, this time around, I do make another mistake, but again, hours and hours of playtesting, you get kind of like this, and you just start clicking stuff. But nonetheless, it shows you the impeccable skill that is not only needed to pilot the deck, but as well as the combos when you do mess up. As long as you didn't go too far, there is a range within recovery that you guys can go into. And I'm just telling you guys, I don't mean to say it, but this deck is too strong. I'm going to be playing against electromagnetic warriors, and I am not going to lie. This is probably one of the most well-built magnetic warrior decks I have ever seen, period. Like, hands down, it's a nice deck. As you guys can see, we went to the second turn combo with the Bujin cards, making to Amaterasu, and then furthering fueling into a Diagusto Emerald, which allows us to recycle some of our extra deck cards back into our deck, as well as tutor the Hirukumo from the Banish Zone to the Graveyard, just in case we can or we have to special summon it with Diagusto Emerald. So basically, the longer that your board stays on the field, the more troublesome it comes for the opponent. Because now I'm going to make the Tiger Motor, and then Hirukumo is going to turn back into another Bujintai Karazushi, and milling 10 cards is almost, I don't want to say just as good, but it's pretty close to having that grass is greener, especially if it comes in the form of a 26 beater that netted you 2 cards before and then netted you a free or 2 free monsters before that. So I'm not saying that it's a, it's the perfect substitute, but it's a pretty damn good substitute for that grass is greener to run it inside of this combo. As you guys can see, this guy, he's really trying, and I'm like, he definitely did a good job on baiting out the Dryden. I should have activated the Dryden to destroy the Valkyrian. Didn't really see the polymerization play coming along, but then he summons Berserkion, and I'm like, well, it's time to get rid of this stuff from the deck. And my most important thing is now I have to deal with a 4K, well, now a 2K 4K now monster that special summons both Valkyrian and Berserkion from the deck when destroyed. And I'm like, this is some sort of a problem. Unfortunately for me, I make the mistake of activating Zodiac combo before I shuffle my second Dryden into the deck. So now I'm forced to make Broad Bull with double attachments to banish. Now thinking about it, I probably should have made it with 1 attachment and then kept the other one to make another Zodiac monster with the attachment of Whiptail. Again, I forget to destroy the fusion recycling plant, so he makes another Berserkian off of the luck of the draw. With that, I'm going to banish the Berserkian because I have a strong feeling that that's his last one left, and I'll be able to successfully get over this card and attack for game. So we have Void Dream on the field, and now we get to special summon our 2 monsters, and that's going to be game to the deck profile. All right, guys, we are on to the deck profile. I want to start off by saying I separate the Infernoid monsters into 3 different categories. The tier 3 guys and the tier 2 guys can both be special summoned from the hand or graveyard. The tier 3 guys require 3 Inferno monsters from the hand or graveyard, and those monsters are Infernoid Onuku and Infernoid Deviati. What Deviati does, it's when it's summoned, it destroys all spells and traps that aren't void cards on the field. Also, you can tribute one of your monsters to negate a monster effect and banish it. Onuku destroys all monsters when it's summoned, and you can tribute a monster to negate the activation of a spell and trap and banish it. Next is 2 copies of Seismus. At the end of the battle phase, if this card attacked, you can banish 1 card from your opponent that your opponent controls. All of the tier 2 guys require 2 Inferno monsters from your hand or graveyard. They can be special summoned from the hand or graveyard. And also their effect is during either player's turn, you can tribute 1 monster to banish a card in your opponent's graveyard. So Seismus, banish cards on the field. Atando, if it destroys a monster by battle, it can attack once again in a row. And Sajet, this card actually isn't useful for its effects. I believe if it battles or something, it banishes an opponent card from the extra deck. But we don't necessarily use it for its effects. We use it because it's a level 6 Infernoid. Next are the level 1 guys. These can only be summoned from the hand. Also, they can only banish during your opponent's turn. You tribute a monster to banish a card from your opponent's graveyard during their turn. 3 copies of Patrula. This card destroys spells and traps. It cannot attack a turn to use its effects. Harmonic, this card destroys monsters. It cannot attack the turn it uses its effect. Antra, this card spins face-up cards to your side of on your opponent's side of the field. And Pyramus, this card spins face-down cards on the field to the deck. The best thing about Pyramus, and the reason why we run 2, is because it is a level 1 monster, so we can use it with Void Feast in case we do mill off our Decatrons, which has happened quite a bit. And also, it actually is our Mystical Space Typhoon or our Cosmic Cyclone. It spins so many pesky cards before our opponent can get their effects off. So that's it for that. And then there's the tier 0 Infernoid because it doesn't follow any of the Infernoid rules. 3 copies of Decatron. This is the heart and soul of the deck. When this card is normal summon, you can send, or normal summon or special summon, you can send 1 Infernoid monster from your deck, and this card gains that monster's level. Also, it gains that monster's effects. So, you normally want to summon this and send one of the tier 3 guys. Sometimes you can send a tier 1 guy to gain their effects, but ultimately, it has so many great plays. We run no synchro, so unfortunately, we can't abuse the fact that it's a tuner, but we do abuse the fact that he can't change his level, and we do exceed summon with it. That is it for the Infernoid monsters. I think we play about 20. Now, for the other monsters that we play, of course, 2 Zodiac Rap here. We wouldn't be able to do any of the Bujintai, Katazushi. To be honest with you guys, if I can make Katazushi a better way, I probably would be playing it. But Rap here in the Zodiac engine provides the best way to do it. His normal summon effect is actually more important now than ever before with this deck. 2 copies of Zodiac Whiptail. What this card does is if it's attached to a Beast Warrior monster and it battles an opponent's monster, that monster is banished at the end of the damage step. It gains that, the Beast Warrior monster gains that effect. The next thing is that you can equip it, or you can attach it as an XC material during your opponent's turn or whenever you want to. So it's a pretty good card in that essence. And then another one of the more important cards to the deck is Zodiac Ram. Now, I'm going to completely ignore it's when it's attached to a Beast Warrior XC monster as a material because that's not the relevant effect. The relevant effect is when this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, we can special summon 1 Zodiac monster to our side of the field. I will explain to why this is so important later. 2 copies of Bujin Hiriko. Now, this card is extremely important as well. It's a broad pull target. We can search it. But most importantly, it allows us to morph our Bujin Katazushi to other monsters. 2 copies of Fairy Tale Snow. What Fairy Tale Snow does is we can banish 7 cards from our hand, hand, field, or graveyard to special summon it. When it's normal summon or special summon, we get to flip a face up monster face down. So it's basically a trap in our graveyard. It's easily one of the best cards in the deck, especially if you're running 60 cards. 1 copy of Maxi. If you guys should probably know what Maxi does. If you activate this during this format, you probably win. So I'm assuming going into the next format, you should probably still win. And then we run 3 Kaijus. 1 Kadarla, 1 Sticky String, and 1 Gamseel. I would love to run a 4th Kaiju, but, you know, room's pretty tight. But in 4 Kaijus really isn't mandatory. What this is probably, or what this is going to be used for more often than not is probably Masterpiece. Because Masterpiece isn't a terribly hard card to deal with, but Kaijus just make it extremely easy to deal with. So here comes the Kaijus for whenever my opponent summons Masterpiece. Ultimately, we run 1 of every copy because if, like, let's say if we draw 2 Kaijus, we can tribute our opponent's monsters to summon the Gamseel and then give ourselves the stronger Kaiju. So that's why we run multiple copies. That's it for monsters. I think we edge out at monsters at 34. For spells, 3 copies of Void Imagination. This card is bananas. So when it's on the field, all of our Infernoid monsters become level 1 if they're original level or 2 or higher. And also, it allows us to fusion summon Tierra, and we can use Inferno monsters from our deck if our opponent controls a monster from the extra deck and we don't. Void Vanishment. What this card does is once per turn, I can discard 1 card to add 1 Void card from my deck to my hand. If one of my Infernoid monsters battles your monster, I can banish those 2 monsters. 3 copies of Zodiac Barrage. This is literally to get Zodiac Rap here to our side of the field faster. 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki. This is to search the Zodiac Raptor because Raptor is really important. It also allows us to search the Bujin Hariko if we already have that combo going on. This card I didn't want to run, but I had 2 extra slots. I'm still debating on if I really want to run it. Don't get me wrong, this card's an absolute blowout because it does search Alarm Mowing. But at the same time, activating this card and getting Ash means you're probably going to lose the game. What it does is you banish your entire hand. You have to have 2 or more cards in your hand to activate this card. To add 1 spell or trap or 1 spell card from your deck to your hand. Now the problem with this is that you can't set cards, and we do play a good amount of spell, or we do play a good amount of trap cards. So it does have that problem, but most importantly, it does add our grass is greener. I guess you can say these 2 copies are 2 extra grass. 2 copies of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. What I found really interesting about this deck is that you can mill off Kaiju Slumber, and then during your turn, you can search that Kaiju. So running 2 of these and 3 Kaijus, since you'll never be able to resolve 2 unless you Emerald 1 back, isn't that bad. But most importantly, it is a dark hole and it rids Zodiac boards. 1 copy of Grass is Greener because, you know, you got to comply with the regulation of the new list. Card's really good though. 1 copy of 1 for 1. This special summons Decatron to our side of the field. Decatron is easily one of our more important cards. 1 copy of Void Seer. There are a lot of applications where I found Void Seer to be very good. First, it's a Forbidden Lance on drugs for all of our Infernoids monsters. And then secondly, when it's in the graveyard, it can banish itself to protect our Infernoid monsters. But most importantly, it's a Void card. I can discard it with Void Feast. And then one copy of Barrel from a different dimension. This was actually the card that I was going to opt for a third left arm offering, but this card's pretty nutty. Since this build doesn't run as many Infernoid monsters as I desire, I can reuse them with Barrel from a different dimension. That's it for spells. For traps, I think it's 20 spells. It's 3 copies of Void Feast. This card is easily the best card in the deck, or one of the best cards in the deck. If you don't open the Zoo combo and you open this, you're still pretty much fine. You can send 1 Void Spell or Trap card from your hand, or face up from your field to the graveyard to special summon up to 3 Inferno monsters from your deck that equal to level 8, ignoring their summoning conditions. So what you do is you summon 2 Decatron into Shajet. You activate both Decatrons to turn them into the other guys I'll show you in the combo tutorial. Really good. 2 copies of Lost Wind. What Lost Wind does is when our opponent has a special summon monster, we can target it, negate its effects, half its attack, and then when it's into our graveyard, which is very important for a deck that mills cards, while it's in the graveyard, if opponent special summons from the extra deck, we can set this card to our side of the field, so it's easy spot removal for the Infernoids. Also, what I notice is that when you go against like variants of True Draco, like True Draco Zoo or whatever, they tend to actually no, it's not good against them because they tribute summon for the Masterpiece. But it's still just a really, really good card, especially against like Zoo and whatever you got to go against. And then 1 copy of Zodiac Combo. Now, this card is completely bananas in this deck, mainly because if you open the Zodiac Combo, you're going to go through enough targets for Zodiac Combo to activate, especially within the first 2 turns. What it does is you can target 1 Zodiac monster on the field and attach 1 Zodiac Exceed and attach 1 Zodiac monster from the deck. It's Exceed material. Also, if it's in the graveyard, you can banish it, target 5 Zodiac cards in your graveyard, and shuffle them into the deck to draw 1 card. This card's freaking bananas for this deck, especially since we're going to use the graveyard effect more often than not. That's it for the main deck. We sum it out at 60 because, you know, that's the maximum amount. I'd probably run 65 if I could, but I can't. For the extra deck monsters, 2 copies of Zodiac Trident. This card's pretty standard for Zodiacs. You can detach 1 material to destroy 1 face-up card on the field. 2 copies of Chakanine. Why I show you Chakanine and Tiger Mortar. 2 copies of Chakanine. What this does is we can detach 1 material, special summon 1 Zodiac monster to our side of the field. It can't be used for an Exceed summon. I really don't know why they made that part of an effect. I mean, it's understandable because the card is busted, but it's at the same time as like this deck is predicated on Exceed summon. Why would you special summon a card like or whatever? Also, the monster's effects are negated until the end of the turn. 2 copies of Tiger Mortar. What Tiger Mortar does is we can detach 1 material, target 1 Zodiac monster in our graveyard, and attach it as a material. So it's very useful for recycling Rat Peers or putting certain cards under our Zodiac monsters before we go into Trident or before we make a port. Easily the most important card to the Zodiac engine. I think it's more important than Trident. It's the best card. Mainly because it's 2 level 4 monsters, so you can just summon it with whatever. And most importantly is that it searches Beast Warriors. And I don't understand why Kamani made a level 4 easily made, like, it's better than Tiger King, and Tiger King was the best Beast Warrior we had up to date until Zodiacs. So you detach 1 material and you can search 1 Beast Warrior monster that can be normal summoned from your deck to your hand. It has to be level 4 or lower. Keep in mind it says that it can be normal summoned, so I was actually building a Bujin build and you can't search Hirume, so you know that's where it came up, but other than that it really doesn't matter. 2 copies of Daiguster Emerald. Now, you guys are like, TheCaliEffect, you use this as a mill deck. Why are you playing 2 Daiguster Emerald? Well, first of all, Daiguster Emerald is still one of the most broken Exceeds in the game. But secondly, I use both of its effects. I use the effect of Special Summon Bujin Hirume from my graveyard to my side of the field to tutor a rank 4 play. And I also use it to shuffle in my extra deck, since I go through extra deck very fast. And then you run 2 so it can recycle itself. And Tikonomi puts this at 1, the card's still busted. And then 1 copy of Zodiac Barbo. Don't even worry about its effects. It's just a name. 1 copy of Infernoid Tiara. Basically, this card is freaking bananas. If you get to successfully fusion summon for it, you get to either send cards from the opponent's extra deck, send cards from the top of the deck, discard the entire hand. But most importantly, it is a target for Void Imagination. And now that I look at Infernoid Tiara, I probably would drop a left arm offering for... I guess I'll drop a left arm offering for a Foolish Barrel and the other one for Future Fusion. But I didn't like Future Fusion because, if somebody... with Zodiacs being so around, they make the Trident and then they just destroy the Future Fusion whenever they please. So I didn't like Future Fusion, but it's still a really good card if they don't play Trident, I guess. But that's like asking, do you not play competitive? Unfortunately, that's it for the other cards. Now, my spicy tech, obviously the Bujin Katazushi card's freaking godly. When it's summoned, you get to mill the top 5 cards from the deck to the graveyard. This is actually what I base the deck on, is being able to summon him. And I wanted to summon him because we had no other outs to make Dante. No easy way to make Dante since Ceratop was limited. And we wanted to make a card that milled cards from the top of our deck to the graveyard. I found a way not only to summon him once, but to keep on consecutively summoning him if our opponent doesn't deal with it. Also, it can't be destroyed, or when it's destroyed, I can detach a material instead. We have no way of making this card. Actually, we do. Two Fairy Tale Snow, but that's far and few between that would happen. What it does is that we can detach one material, discard our whole hand, and draw 2 cards. So it's awesome, and I'll show you guys why. And then last is Bushinkai Amaterasu. This card is also extremely hard to make inside of the deck by normal conventions. But what it does is freaking amazing. Okay, first, it detaches one material during our turn to special summon one level 4 monster to our side of the field. During our opponent's turn, we detach one material to add a level 4 monster or lower that is banished to our hand. So this card is freaking amazing. But that is it for the main board. Now I can get you guys to the combo tutorial. Alright, fellas, fortunately for us, the deck isn't too much combo-esque. So there's not too many combos to go around. I think I'm going to talk about, all you need is Void Vanishment and a card in your hand. What you do is you activate Void Vanishment and you discard 1 card from your hand. So discard 1 card from your hand. And that allows you to add Void Feast from your deck to your hand. Then you set the Void Feast and you pass turn. During any time you activate the effects of Void Feast, that'll send Void Vanishment from your field to the graveyard, or if you have another Void card, you can send that too. And what you would do is you would special summon Decatron, and Sajat, or Jat, since, you know, it equals up to 8. The first Decatron will send Anuku to the graveyard. The second Decatron will send Deviati to the graveyard. So now you have tutored Anuku and Deviati to your graveyard. But most importantly, your Infernoid Decatron, both of them become, you contribute a monster to negate a spell and banish it, or trap, or you contribute a monster to negate a monster effect and banish it. And you also have your normal, you contribute itself, you contribute a monster to banish a card from your opponent's graveyard. It's not really a huge combo tutorial, but it makes a pretty solid board off of basically 1 card and then discarding 1 card, which is probably Infernoid, so you can gain more advantage. The next thing is the Zodiac combo. Now, a lot of people were saying Zodiac was dead with the Lunalight combo. I completely disagree. And it all starts off with a normal summon Rapier. You're going to use Rapier's effect to send Zodiac Ram to the graveyard. I know, you're using Zodiac Rapier's effect. And with that, you're going to make the Zodiac Borbo. You remember when I said it was just a filler? Well, congratulations. It's just a filler. The Borbo is then going to use its effect, since it had Rapier as a material, to special summon the second copy of Zodiac Rapier. And with that, you are going to make Broad Bull. Now, Broad Bull's effect is going to detach to search the Bujin Haruko to your side of the field. Next, after that, you are going to make Zodiac Chakanine. Now, Chakanine's effect is going to detach itself to special summon Zodiac Ram to your side of the field. So Ram can't be used for an Exceed summon, or we'd stop right there and then just make the Exceed summon. And that's why I was like, it's kind of ridiculous because, you know, Chakanine is like, it's part of an Exceed deck, but I understand. Next, instead of going straight to the Trident, we're going to make the Tiger Mortar first, and then we're going to go straight to the Trident. Then we're going to use our Trident's effect to detach to destroy the Zodiac Ram. Now, before you guys get into why did I just waste the Tiger Mortar, it's actually pretty important that you overlay the Tiger Mortar instead of going straight, or, you know, if you do play an extra XC monster, overlay that monster before going to the Trident. The main reason is so Trident can have a material to destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field. So we're going to destroy the Ram, and Ram's effect is going to activate to special summon Zodiac Rapier to our side of the field. Next, we're going to use both of those monsters to make Bujin Katazushi. And what that's going to do is it's going to send 5 monsters, or 5 cards from the top of our deck, from our decks to the graveyard. All right. Next, we are going to activate Bujin Haruko in our Pendulum Zone. And we're going to use this effect to banish itself to target our Bujintai Katazushi. What that's going to do is it's going to make Bujintai Tsukiyomi, and we're going to activate that effect, detaching Rapier. Now, providing that we have at least 1 card in our hand, and we only use 1 card to summon Rapier, so we're going to have at least 1 card in our hand. If you guys have cards to activate or set, you might want to do it until you have 1 card in your hand. You're going to discard your whole hand. I'm going to say that we used all of our card effects, and then you're going to net 2 additional cards. So that is the biggest thing about this thing. Now, the next combo I want to say, let's say it's during our opponent's turn, we activated Trident to destroy a card. So Trident has destroyed a card, and it's back to our turn. We've successfully protected the Trident. So now we'll have 3 cards for our draw for turn. we'll use 2 of those cards no matter how we do it. And then we'll activate Bujin Tsukiyomi. Now, Tsukiyomi will force us to discard our entire hand again to draw 2 additional cards. But most importantly, this Zodiac Dryden is pretty lonely, so we're going to give it some company. We're going to make it into a Zodiac Broadpull. We're going to activate the effect of Broadpull. And that's going to set our second Haruko. Next, we're going to activate the effect of Haruko to turn it into Amaterasu. Now, Amaterasu's effect is going to activate detaching the Katazushi to special summon the Haruko. From there on forward, if we do have another level 4 monster, or if we hard draw a Zodiac monster, we can summon it and then use it to Exceed summon into a Daigusto Emerald. The Emerald to detach, and guess what? Now we have the combo all over again. Also, during the opponent's turn, we can detach this to add the Haruko back to our hand, which means the Amaterasu, then again, because we shuffled the Katazushi with Emerald, then again becomes the Katazushi to mill 5 additional cards. You can rinse, wash, and repeat this combo quite a few times as long as you have 2 Emeralds to abuse. Thank you guys so much for watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. I hope you guys enjoy the Zodiac deck, or I'm sorry, the Infernoid deck rebuilt, because this deck is completely awesome. Unfortunately, you do have to use Infernoids, and I know how much you guys are anti-meta and want to use other strategies, but let's face it, if you guys want to be competitive, you got to use the best cards available, and that's exactly what I did. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.